Today we have a very special episode. As the NFL draft is approaching us this Thursday, I'm doing my final complete first round of the NFL mock draft. You don't want to miss it. So this was really fun to make, and it took me a long time to make. So before you watch this, I'm going to give a quick heads up. If there's anything you disagree with, anything you don't like about my mock draft, go in the comments and just let me know. I will reply to all of you. I want to know everything you guys have to say. I usually talk about this at the end of my videos. However, this is a video where it makes sense, where you would pause the video and then go down there and kind of basically just give me hate. But while you go down there, to take your time to leave a comment, just click that like button, and it really helps out the channel, and that would be very much appreciated. So we're gonna get into it now. Now, this took me a while. I was kind of analyzing a lot of these players. A couple of the players I did not know, so I was analyzing them a little bit more. So we're going to start it off with a pretty basic one. It's the Cincinnati Bengals are on the clock, and they're going to take Joe Burrow, quarterback from LSU, who is the top-ranked quarterback basically to ever come out of college. I mean, from his last season, basically, from his stats or whatever. However, that's not the case. I mean, he has some red flags, and the Bengals honestly could go with Chase Young here. It would make sense. Andy Dalton, I still think, is pretty good. A lot of people disagree, but Andy Dalton is not the reason why the Bengals are trash. So they're going to go with quarterback Joe Burrow. I mean, they benched Andy Dalton last year. It's pretty obvious that that's going to happen, even though it would make sense for them to also go with Chase Young. And then now Chase Young is going to go second to the Washington Redskins, defensive end from Ohio State, or the Ohio State. Don't hate me, Ohio fans. I don't usually say the, just takes so much time. And then, yeah, this just makes sense. Chase Young is the best defensive and probably the best player coming out of college this year. He's going to be unstoppable, and this is going to make the Redskins defense actually possibly good. I mean, their secondary will still be pretty bad, but they don't have a second round pick though, so they couldn't get a corner, even though it'd be a great spot for them to get a corner. But anyways, this is an obvious pick, and it's not going to go any other way. I mean, Dolphins might try to trade up and get Tua, but it just doesn't make sense. So, and then next up, we have the Lions are on the clock with the 3rd overall pick, and the Lions need a corner. And Jeffrey Okuda's sitting up there. But they get a really good trade offer with the Miami Dolphins, who trade up. Now, this is going to be like probably the only spot the Dolphins will trade up, and they trade up to get Tua Tagovailoa from, or Tagovailoa? Yeah, Tua Tagovailoa. Okay, I killed that. Quarterback from Alabama. And the Dolphins trade up here because they basically have to. I mean, they do need a quarterback, and it wouldn't make sense for them to sit at 5 and wait because Giants are probably going to trade out. So they give the 5th overall pick and the 26th overall pick to the Detroit Lions to take Tua Tagovailoa. And although the Lions really do need Jeffrey Okuda here, it just makes so much sense. I mean, they get 2 first-round picks out of this, and then they can step down just 2 spots, and they get 2 first-round picks. And the Dolphins don't really care. I mean, they have so many picks in this year's draft, next year's draft, insane amount of picks in the 1st, 2nd, all of the rounds. So the Dolphins are in no way, shape, or form going to actually take a disadvantage from this trade. They're getting their quarterback of the future. And then now up, we have the Giants, who are on the clock. Now, the Giants, they need an offensive tackle, and this is a great spot to take an offensive tackle for the New York Giants. And I don't like it because I want the Giants to trade down. It makes so much sense for the Giants to trade down, especially with Jeffrey Okuda and Isaiah Simmons still sitting on the clock. So a team trades up to where the Giants can still get an offensive tackle where they're going down, and this team trades up because they need help on their defense. Their defense is not looking that great. So the Jacksonville Jaguars trade up. They give their 1st-round pick, 3rd, and 4th. I can't remember the exact overalls. I just wrote down the rounds, so I'll put it on the screen, their exact overall picks. Now, the Jaguars have a lot of picks to kill. They do have a ton of picks, and they trade up because they need defense. They don't really have anything on defense. I mean, their defensive line is okay. They need secondary. They don't have like linebackers. They don't have anything, and they do need those picks, but Jeffrey Okuda is my favorite player coming out of college this year. I think he is going to be amazing. Cornerback from the Ohio State, and I love this guy. The trash talking, the everything, it makes so much sense. And the Jacksonville Jaguars, I think they really like this guy too. I mean, he does have a Jalen Ramsey personality, and that's what you want in a corner, someone who can get in the wide receiver's head, and just a nasty person. And I love this player, and this is a great trade if you ask me. So now, we have the Lions back on the clock with the 5th overall pick. They got it from the Dolphins. with the Tua trade, and they were back on the clock, and now they're totally fine. I mean, the Lions knew that they were going to either get Jeffrey Okudah or Isaiah Simmons with this pick. They would have preferred Jeffrey Kuda, but Isaiah Simmons, they take Isaiah Simmons, linebacker from Clemson. This is such a good fit for the Lions. The Lions secondary is terrible. I mean, they just lost their best player in the secondary, gave up like nothing for him too to the Eagles. No, how do you describe this? Isaiah Simmons is not the best defensive player coming out of the college, but he definitely is the defensive player that can do the most. Like, he can be a safety, a slot corner. He can be you can play him at corner, you can play him on the edge, you can play him as a nose tackle. Isaiah Simmons has probably the best possibility of being a star. That's what I should say, because he can do everything. And he's going to make offenses game plan totally against him. And this is such a good fit. I mean, the Lions defensive line is okay right now, so they might not use him off the edge a lot, but you can use him on everything else. And this is such a good pick for the Lions. And I think the Giants should have honestly gone with this. I think in my last draft, I did have the Giants take Isaiah Simmons. However, here, I think because the Giants just took their Daniel Jones, I do think they are just focusing on an offensive tackle in the first round, even though if I was David Gettleman, I would take Isaiah Simmons. So now on the clock, we have the LA Chargers. They are on the clock with the 6th overall pick. Now, I had a whole video where I was talking about Chargers are not taking Justin Herbert. At least if they do, if you ask me, that's a horrible decision. I don't like Justin Herbert going at the 6th overall pick because they need a offensive tackle. And there's quarterbacks out there that they can take and replace Tyrod Taylor. So now they go with the top offensive tackle off the board, in my opinion. Jedrick Wills Jr., offensive tackle from Alabama. And this is such a good fit. I think the Chargers need to take a offensive tackle at this spot, especially because they could get the 1st or 2nd off the board, and it makes so much sense to me. So I don't like the idea of taking Justin Herbert. I had a whole video where I talked about that, and we're going to see where Justin Herbert falls. This is going to be interesting. So now the Chargers, they take like 5 seconds to turn that in. And then the Panthers are on the clock with the 7th overall pick. They are sitting pretty at 7, waiting to take a defensive player off the board. Now, they were hoping to have Akuda or Isaiah Simmons fall to 7 for them to be able to take. And the Panthers are totally fine with taking Derek Brown, defensive tackle from Auburn. After easily the best defensive tackle in the draft. He's going to be great. He was so electric in Auburn and looked really good. So this is really good for the Panthers. They need defensive help. They have like no players on defense, and they're in a rebuilding phase in a really tough division. So taking a quarterback wouldn't make sense. Oh, they took Teddy Bridgewater. Never mind. They're not taking a quarterback. They're in a rebuilding phase right now, and it's going to be a pretty long rebuild because they are in a division with the Buccaneers and the Saints and the Falcons. So it's going to be a pretty long rebuild, but taking Derek Brown, he has years to come, and it's going to make a lot of sense. The Panthers are in a really good spot right here. So next up, we have the Cardinals, who are on the clock. Now, the Cardinals, undoubtedly, 100%, they're just sitting pretty at 8. They are going to take an offensive tackle. And in my opinion, the second best offensive tackle in this draft would be Tristan Wirfs, offensive tackle from Iowa. Now, the Cardinals are a team you do not want to reckon with. The Cardinals, if they can get a really good offensive tackle in the first round and add defensive players, they don't have a second round pick, but they got DeAndre Hopkins, so their offense is already good if they get this offensive tackle. And then add defensive players, more depth pieces. With Cliff Kingsbury, Kyler Murray in that offense, you don't want to reckon with the Cardinals. Now, what they don't have going for them is that they are in a division with the Rams, the 49ers, and the... who else is there? Rams, Seahawks. So they are in a really tough division. And this is the only thing they don't have going for them, but they are a force you do not want to mess with in this 2020 season and beyond if they draft well. If they draft well, they could be making a Super Bowl, like we saw from the 49ers last year. They drafted well, and that they got Deebo Samuel and Nick Bosa. Those two players made them go from a trash team to a Super Bowl team. And now they made the Super Bowl and lost, but still, if that could be the Cardinals this next season, and it makes a lot of sense if you ask me. So now the Cardinals just go with whatever offensive tackle off the board. In my opinion, that's Tristan Wirfs. Now, here we have the Giants are back on the board. Now, the Giants know that they're going to get an offensive tackle at 9. They traded down just in my mock draft with the trades. The Jaguars traded up, so now they're at the 9th pick, and they're just waiting for an offensive tackle to fall to them. Whether that's Jedrick Wills, Tristan Wirfs were off the board, and then the third best, who I think David Gettleman might have taken fourth overall anyways, because I think he does really love this guy because he's a David Gettleman type of dude, and that is Mekhi Becton, offensive tackle from Louisville. And this just makes a lot of sense. I mean, Mekhi Becton lit up the combine. He looked really good at Louisville, and if you ask me, he is the third best offensive tackle in this draft. So Giants take him at 9, and now you have someone to protect Daniel Jones, who you took really early in last year's draft, and I think that's just what their focus is. The New York Giants in this first round is to take an offensive tackle because their offense really does need it right now, especially with all the turnovers that Daniel Jones had last season. Now, the Browns are sitting at number 10. The Browns could trade up to 4 maybe and try to get a better offensive tackle. Now, the Browns are sitting at 10, really hoping they can get an offensive tackle. They're hoping they can, and this is a good spot to be sitting for offensive tackle. However, it's a scary spot. So the Browns take Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle from Georgia. They need someone to protect Baker Mayfield right now, and they need someone to help Nick Chubb a little bit more. Now, Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle from Georgia, is a really good offensive tackle, and this would make a lot of sense. And this is what the Browns need with their offense. And the Browns could be a really good team if they get Andrew Thomas, who is really good, and then they add a lot of defensive players. Same with the Cardinals. These two teams, if they draft well, they could be really good in this next season. Now, after that, the Jets are on the clock, and the Jets are hoping they can get an offensive tackle here. The Jets could trade up to try to get one of these top offensive tackles, and they're hoping to get an offensive tackle. But last year we saw Sam Darnold had no help. He had no protection, nobody to throw to, so they go with who they think is the top off the board, and that would be CeeDee Lamb, wide receiver from Oklahoma. Now, if you ask me, CeeDee Lamb is the second best wide receiver in this draft class, but I don't know why. It just seems like that he fits with the Jets. There's something about him. Now, CeeDee Lamb, I think, is the best hands out of any wide receiver in this class, so maybe that's why he would fit so well with this drafting team and these scoutings, and it just kind of works with me. You can disagree if you'd like, and then he is the second best wide receiver, in my opinion, after Jerry Jeudy. So now the Raiders are on the clock with the 12th overall pick, and Derek Carr had offensive line help in the season, but he had no wide receiver help. So they go with the best wide receiver, in my opinion, off the board, and that would be Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver from Alabama. Amazing route runner, and he fits so well with this team. And it's clear Derek Carr needs this. Now they have Marcus Mariota coming in to to play for his job, which we could see that as well. But either way, you want to take Jerry Jeudy. You need a wide receiver, a clear number 1 wide receiver, and Jerry Jeudy is the best in the class, if you ask me. So I think if Jerry Jeudy is sitting at 12, the Raiders will undoubtedly, that would be their number 1 pick to be taken at 12. So now the 49ers are on the clock. This is from the DeForest Buckner trade with the Indianapolis Colts. I loved that trade just because you can see like the Colts are trying to win because their division is trash now. Their division is not good at all. Well, the Titans are kind of good. But anyways, the 49ers are on the clock after trading with the Colts, and they gave him DeForest Buckner. Now, I think the 49ers, they need more picks. They need picks in the second, third. I think outside of the first round, I might be wrong, but they don't pick till like the 5th round. So they need those like 2-3 round picks to add depth pieces. I don't know who's going to be trading up. Like, you look who's on the board still, and Justin Herbert is there, and it would make a lot of sense to trade up for Justin Herbert. But who's gonna do that? I don't see it happening. I think someone will try to trade up for a wide receiver if they're still here, if CeeDee Lamb or Jerry Jeudy is still here. But I was looking for a good trade for a long time for the 49ers to trade, because I think they are looking for a trade. But I just have the 49ers taking a player here anyways. I mean, you can hate me. Let me know if you think there's a better trade, or if there's a trade at all, because I couldn't find one. I don't know who's going to trade up for Justin Herbert. I'm serious. I'm not very high on Justin Herbert. But anyways, they take Javon Kinlaw, defensive tackle from South Carolina. Now, Javon Kinlaw has a great story, and he's going to fill in for DeForest Buckner. I think Javon Kinlaw has a very promising future, and he's going to be really good. I think the 49ers would be totally fine with not trading down and taking Javon Kinlaw anyways, and then filling in for DeForest Buckner. I love this player. His story is really good too. If you haven't checked it out, he does have there's a story about his history. He was homeless and that kind of stuff, and it's really interesting. So I love Javon Kinlaw, and I want to see him go to a good team. Now, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers are on the clock with the 14th overall pick, and they clearly are focusing on two players in this draft: offensive tackle or O-line at all, and then a running back. If they draft well, just like the Cardinals, just like the Browns, if they draft well and they get the right players, they could be the 2020 49ers, basically. And like, yeah, so they go from a bad team to a really good team if they draft well. And they need an offensive tackle. Obviously, they traded for Tom Brady. Okay, that's their biggest thing. They did trade. No. They signed Tom Brady from free agency. That's their biggest thing. Now, they need offensive tackles to protect for Tom Brady, and they need a running back to lay the pressure off of Tom Brady. If they get that, it's over. If they get Jonathan Taylor, DeAndre Swift, and in this case, Josh Jones, offensive tackle from Houston. Now, I'm very high on Josh Jones. I love this player, and I think this may be a bit of an overdraft to take him 14th overall, but you need him. You need this. And then second round, if you can get DeAndre Swift or Jonathan Taylor, might have to trade up for one of those. They're going to be a really good team, and this is what I would love to see. So, yeah, Tampa Bay Buccaneers taking Josh Jones, offensive tackle from Houston, makes a lot of sense for me. If he is a really good offensive tackle, as I think he will be, it's going to be over. I think they're going to be really good, and now you have another really good team in the NFC. And now, the Denver Broncos are sitting on the clock. Now, you look at what the Denver Broncos need. They need help on their secondary, and they need a wide receiver, another wide receiver. The wide receiver class is so good, and to take Henry Ruggs right here seems it makes sense, but I feel like it's just not going to happen. They can get a really good wide receiver, too, in the second round to team up with Cortland Sutton. And now they can get a corner in the second round, too, but right now, you have Christian Fulton, cornerback from LSU on the board right now, and it makes so much sense for them to take that. If you ask me, it just works. I love Christian Fulton for this team, and I like it. I had it in my last mock draft, and I'm gonna still do it. It just makes a lot of sense for Christian Fulton to be taken by the Denver Broncos, and then for them to go wide receiver in the second round, because you do see in the 2019 draft class, you see wide receivers taken in the second, third round, outperforming wide receivers in the first round. And you see this wide receiver class, and yeah, you can take Henry Ruggs here. Yes, you can, but you can get a wide receiver second round as well. It's not like CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy where they're huge talents. Henry Ruggs is a big step down from Jerry Jeudy and CeeDee Lamb, and to take him 14th overall just doesn't fit with me. Or 15th overall. Sorry, I've been saying 14, but 15. Broncos 15th overall, take Christian Fulton. And now, the Atlanta Falcons are on the clock, and I think the Atlanta Falcons are I think they have to go defense here. I don't care who's on the board. Atlanta Falcons are just sitting here pretty at, where are they, 16? Yep, 16. And they're just going to take a defensive player, and they take a lot of people's second-ranked corner in this draft. I think Christian Fulton, if you ask me, he is the second-ranked, but a lot of people second-ranked, and that would be C.J. Henderson, cornerback from Florida. Now, we've seen a lot of, Florida corners not really work in the NFL. Maybe it's like a curse, but anyways, whatever. Who cares about that? Anyways, CJ Henderson, cornerback from Florida, going to the Atlanta Falcons. I think it works if you ask me, and I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go defense here, and this is a good spot for them to take a defensive player. They're hoping to get Javon Kinlaw, though. That'd be their number one pick at this position. And then now you have the Dallas Cowboys on the clock with the 17th overall pick. And the Dallas Cowboys, clearly, they need help on the secondary, whether that's corner, whether that's safety, whatever. They need secondary help. And they're hoping to get Christian Fulton or C.J. Henderson here, and probably mad that they were just taken in the two picks right before them, hoping for one of those players to fall to them. But whatever, there's a really good safety that's out there right now, and that would be Xavier McKinney, safety from Alabama. Now, a lot of people have him ranked the second best safety in this draft class. I disagree. I think he is the number one safety above Grant Delpit. Yes, even though he played for LSU, Xavier McKinney has no red flags, and this is a safe pick, and Jerry Jones loves safe picks with his first round picks. He loves safe picks, and it just works. I like this pick a lot more than taking Grant Delpit, and I think he would be hoping to take Christian Fulton or C.J. Henderson above him just because of the value of the safety position, and then the value of the corner position being so much more valuable than the safety position. But anyways, this is a really good pick still, even though he didn't get Christian Fulton or C.J. Henderson. And then now you have the Dolphins, who are on the clock with the 18th overall pick. And finally, we see a team trade up for Justin Herbert, because the Dolphins, the Jaguars, I don't think. Okay, so I'll just say, okay, Jaguars. So the Dolphins are on the clock because of the Minkah Fitzpatrick trade. So this would be from the Steelers, and then the Jaguars trade up 2 spots to grab Justin Herbert, quarterback from Oregon, and they give a first round pick, so down 2 spots, and then give him a 5th round pick. So they basically move up 2 spots and then giving up a 5th round pick. Now they only trade up because of one reason, and that could be there's a team that could be trading up, and that would be the Patriots. So they try to trade up and just grab Justin Herbert because he is better than Jordan Love. I don't care what you say. Justin Herbert is better than Jordan Love. And I'm not a Minshew, what Gardner Minshew fan. Like, I love the guy. He seems like a big character, and I know the fans love him and everything. But Justin Herbert, man, like, he's just better. Why would you? Even if you're going to start the 2020 season, start it with Gardner Minshew. Who cares? Start the 2020 season with Gardner Minshew, and then have Justin Herbert come in when you notice that the team is failing. So this makes sense. Now the Jaguars trade up 2 spots to grab Justin Herbert, and I like it. It makes a lot of sense. And the Dolphins trade down 2 spots because it's what the Dolphins do. And now, with the 19th pick, the Raiders are on the clock. This is from the Khalil Mack trade, so this would originally be the Bears pick. And they grab, this is one of my favorite parts of this entire mock draft, probably my favorite. They grab Henry Ruggs, wide receiver from Alabama. Now, they just grabbed Jerry Jeudy. I know, they just grabbed Jerry Jeudy. They don't need 2 wide receivers in the first round. However, Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs, both from Alabama, is one of the best wide receiver duos ever in college. And for those 2 players to be going with the now the Vegas Raiders, for those 2 players to be going with in Las Vegas with the Raiders, because they are really bad at the wide receiver position, and it makes a lot of sense. For those 2 players to be going together and going to Las Vegas, I was about to say Oakland again. Unstoppable. And Derek Carr, maybe, because right now, all of the Oakland Raiders fans always say Derek Carr doesn't have enough help. And yes, I agree with that. Derek Carr does not have enough help. And they all stand behind their quarterback. Fine. Everyone getting behind their quarterback, if you're a fan of the team, fine. That's appreciated. However, now they can't say anything. If you have Jerry Jeudy and Henry Ruggs there together, you can't say Derek Carr is no help. And then they're probably going to blame their defense, which would make sense. And they're going to probably focus on defensive players in the next rounds of the draft. So Raiders are not expecting Henry Ruggs to be still available at the 19th overall position or pick. And if he is, I couldn't see them passing on him. So now 2 wide receivers in the first round. We don't see that happening very much. 2 wide receivers in the first round coming from the same team. I don't know if that's ever happened. So now the Dolphins are back on the on the clock. This is from the Jaguars trade. They traded up 2 spots. This would originally be the Rams pick. The Rams would be sitting really good at here, but they traded for Jalen Ramsey, and so whatever. The Dolphins are on the clock, and the Dolphins are just here sitting nice and just gonna take whoever the best player available still is. And if you ask me, that would be AJ Epinesa, defensive end from Iowa. Now, this player does have some red flags. However, AJ Epinesa is undoubtedly the 2nd best defensive end in this draft class, and I like the pick. I mean, AJ Epinesa I think is expected to go around like 15 even. I'm not very high on him. He does have more red flags, and those first round picks, people like to be more safe with their picks. So it works if you ask me. And this would be a great spot for AJ Epinesa to go. Nice warm place in Miami. Congratulations. And then the Philadelphia Eagles are now on the clock with the 21st overall position, and they are sitting here ready to take one of 2 things. A player on the secondary, because their secondary sucks, or a wide receiver. I don't think they're going to go wide receiver first round. They have Alshon Jeffrey. They have Deshaun Jackson. And I don't think they're going to go wide receiver first round. In fact, I don't think they're going to go offense first round at all. So they go defense here, and they take, who do I have them taking? Trevon Diggs, cornerback from Alabama. Stephon Diggs' brother. So this just works if you ask me. I think taking a player in the secondary in the first round would make more sense than taking a wide receiver for the Philadelphia Eagles. I think wide receiver maybe 3rd or maybe 2nd round would make more sense than first round, even though they can get a great player here. And Trevon Diggs is a really good player and would fit well with the Philadelphia Eagles. And then now the Vikings are on the clock. This is from the Stephon Diggs trade. So this would originally be the Buffalo Bills pick, and this is the 21st overall pick, and the Vikings, clearly we my Minnesota Vikings, we need a wide receiver. I'm not a fan of taking a wide receiver first round for the Vikings. However, I think it's going to happen. And they take Justin Jefferson, wide receiver from LSU. Now, if you ask me, Justin Jefferson is not the fourth best wide receiver in this draft class. However, I think he fits really well with this Vikings team. I think T. Higgins, if you ask me, would be the fourth best. But I think Justin Jefferson, it just fits more with the Vikings team. And I think he would team up really well with Adam Thielen. Now, at the 23rd pick, the New England Patriots are on the clock. And how New England Patriots of a thing? Bill Belichick is so lucky. He is just sitting nice at 23, doesn't trade up for a quarterback, just sits nice. And then he has Jordan Love, quarterback from Utah, to fall to him. Jordan Love needs to go to a team that has good coaching staff and good. So he is compared to Patrick Mahomes, and a lot of people say that that's a bad comparison. I do think that's a good comparison because Patrick Mahomes needed to go to like Andy Reid, needed to go to a good team, developed, because coming out of college, he wasn't that like, he was motivated, but he didn't have like the same amount of skills. Like he's still learning the game, even though he's the best in the game. And Jordan Love, that could happen to him. If he goes to a team with Bill Belichick and the New England Patriots, one of the best coaching staff, this would be really good for Jordan Love to go to. And I like it. He's not better than Justin Herbert, if you ask me. I don't think he's as ready as Justin Herbert. And for him to fall to the Patriots, that's so good for both sides. And I like that. I don't know if anyone's going to trade up for Jordan Love. And I don't think, and the Patriots are just lucky, so they'll just get on. So now the New Orleans Saints are on the clock. And the New Orleans Saints need wide receiver. They got Emmanuel Sanders. No, they don't need wide receiver. The New Orleans Saints need secondary. So whether that's a corner, safety, inside linebacker, and this is a great spot to take a player. Now, when you look at it though, the Saints don't have many picks in this draft and they need more picks. So they do trade out of this 24th pick, even though this would be a good spot for them to take a corner or a safety or an inside linebacker. And they trade with the Denver Broncos, who trade up and give a second, third, and fourth, but also receive the Saints fourth. So they the Saints trade up in the fourth round, basically by giving away one of their fourth picks, and then get a second and a third, if that makes sense. And the Broncos trade up because they need a wide receiver. And although they can get a wide receiver in the second round, as I was saying before when they took Christian Fulton, I was saying they can get a wide receiver second round. Nobody's expecting T. Higgins to still be on the clock. So they take T. Higgins, wide receiver from Clemson. And T. Higgins, if you ask me, is the fourth best wide receiver in this class. I already said that, but he's really good. And I think he fits well with the Denver Broncos team, and they have their eyes on him 100% and will be willing to trade up into the first round to grab him instead of waiting in the second round for a player to fall to them. And Saints now pick in the second round. They don't usually have they don't originally have a second round pick in this draft, and now they do with the Broncos' second round pick and third round pick and fourth round pick. So I think that's great. And then now the Minnesota Vikings, my Minnesota Vikings, are back on the clock with the 25th overall pick. This is their original pick, and it is clear the Vikings need a corner. And we go with Jeff Gladney, cornerback from TCU. Something about the Vikings and taking no-name corners in the first round and then them not working out. I mean, Trey Waynes kind of worked out. Mackenzie Alexander looked okay. Mike Hughes injured like this entire time. Xavier Rhodes looked horrible last season. Taking like no-name corners in the first round is just what Rick Spielman and Mike Zimmer's love to do. And Jeff Gladney is not a no-name corner. However, he's not a first-round talent corner. And you saw this from this last season. His 2018 and his previous years in college were great, but this last season looked bad. And it makes sense. I've been a Vikings fan, and this is how the Vikings love to draft. So they take Jeff Gladney, cornerback from TCU, even though, if you ask me, I don't like that pick at all. I don't like even taking Justin Jefferson. So my Minnesota Vikings don't draft very well, don't draft very well in my mock draft. However, it ends up working out a lot of the time. So now the Lions are on the clock at the 26th pick, and this was the Dolphins pick, but the Dolphins trading up for Tua, they got this 26th overall pick, and it was a great trade for both sides, if you ask me. And the Lions clearly still need help on the defense. Now they grabbed Isaiah Simmons, who is a great defensive player, but why not grab another player who could play in the backfield? And this is going to be the best player available, and that would be Grant Delpit, safety from LSU. If you ask me, he's still the best player available out there, and I think that's what the Lions will do with this 26th overall pick, or take Jordan Love. Lions might actually trade up to take Jordan Love. That would make a lot of sense to me, and I think I had that in my last mock draft, but in this one I didn't have them doing that. I think the Lions are just, with Matt Patricia on the hot seat, with the way their team is right now, they're all built for Matthew Stafford, and them grabbing a new quarterback wouldn't make a lot of sense unless if they get like a new head coach as well. So they just wait and have Grant Delpit fall there, and that's a great spot for the Lions. The Lions getting Grant Delpit and Isaiah Simmons in the first round when originally having only one pick is amazing for the Lions. And then now the Seahawks, and they deserve that because the Lions never get good picks. And now the Seahawks are on the clock with the 27th overall pick. Seahawks have a lot of picks in this year's draft and don't really need more. But who on the board right now do the Seahawks need? I mean, they need offensive line help. They need defensive line help. They need maybe a slot corner. They could get that here. But basically every position the Seahawks are going to be focusing on, there's nobody good available for them here. So there is one player available who is not expected to still be available that the LA Rams will trade up for. Now, the LA Rams don't originally have a first round pick after trading with the Jaguars for Jalen Ramsey, and they trade up for K'Lavon Chaisson, linebacker from LSU. Possibly the best off-ball linebacker in this draft class, but is still available because LSU has so many linebackers. We didn't see a lot of him, and K'Lavon Chaisson will go first round, I think, or early second round, and the Rams trading up. And what do the Rams give? I didn't even put right here what the Rams give. Well, they give their second round pick, and what else do they give? Honestly, I'm going to put it on the screen because I actually didn't write down what the Rams give. I just knew the Rams were going to trade up here if this was a real thing, and it makes sense to me. So now the Ravens are on the clock with the 28th overall pick, and I think the Ravens are sitting nice here, and they need a off-ball linebacker. Now the LA Rams just traded up in front of the Ravens, knowing that the Ravens needed an off-ball linebacker to take the best off-ball linebacker in the draft class. So they basically stole them from the Ravens. Now the Ravens are totally fine here. I mean, they could take possibly the second best off-ball linebacker who's still really good here, and that would be Zach Bond, linebacker from Wisconsin. Zach Bond is really good, and he goes really under the radar if you ask me. So the Ravens can either take a running back here. I don't like the idea of taking a running back, not really, but taking another defensive place to a defense that is already really good, and they play in cold weather too, so it's really good for the defense to just a lot of home field advantage here, and taking Zach Bond would be a great fit with the Baltimore Ravens. It makes a lot of sense to me. Man, I'm dying here. I'm losing breath. I don't usually talk this long without pausing. Oh, we're almost at the end though. Don't worry. I know it's been a long time. So, at least for me, because I'm talking nonstop. So now at the 29th pick, the Tennessee Titans are on the clock. Now, what do the Tennessee Titans need? Defensive line help. The Tennessee Titans need defensive line help and O-line help. They need offensive line and defensive line. Like I said, there's not really any good offensive linemen right here. Second round, there's going to be a lot of guards that are going to be really good to be taken in the second round. And Tennessee Titans, they go with who I think is the third best defensive tackle in this draft, but nobody talks about him really. And he's expected to go like second round. And that would be, okay, Jordan Elliott is up there too. In my last mock draft, I had them taking Jordan Elliott. He might be like kind of tied with this player, but I changed it up, and now we have Ross Blacklock, defensive tackle from TCU. Now, Jordan Elliott has a little bit more like red flags, and you don't know as much of him, but Ross Blacklock, easy talent. You can see him in college dominate, and this makes a lot of sense. And him fitting with the Titans, it just makes sense. Like, a lot of these just make so much sense to me, but it probably won't happen. No, it's going to happen. All these picks are going to be drafted in this exact order. You heard it here first. I messed that up. You heard it here first. Okay, there. Anyways, so defensive tackle, Ross Blacklock, going to the Tennessee Titans at the 29th overall position. Love that pick. So now, with the 30th overall pick, the Green Bay Packers are on the clock. The Green Bay Packers clearly need help with Aaron Rodgers, like every year in the first round. I mean, last year they focused on defense, but whatever. They need offensive line help for him, and they need people for him to throw to. Now, Devontae Adams, amazing, clear number one receiver. Outside of that, tight end, nothing. They don't have anyone to throw to. I mean, Jimmy Graham left. Who even cares? Jimmy Graham was nothing last season. And then they have whatever their wide receivers are besides Devontae Adams. Terrible. So they're sitting at 30th overall, which is usually not a really good spot to be taking a wide receiver, but in this case, it is a really good spot to be taking a wide receiver. And there's not really a tight end for them to be talking about. So they go with Laviska Shenault Jr., wide receiver from Colorado. And there's like 5 wide receivers they can take at this pick. And I think Laviska outperforms all of those. undoubtedly, and he's going to be really good. He can run with the ball. He can do anything you want, and they're going to be really creative with what he can do. And him going to Green Bay would be really good for him because they can use him in every kind of way. They need that X factor player is what I'm trying to say. And this fits really well in my opinion. So now the 31st overall position, the 49ers are on the clock. Now, like I said before, the 49ers were looking for a trade. They needed to trade down with that DeForest Buckner, where with the Colts, the 13th overall pick. Now, they were looking for a trade. They were not able to find a trade in my mock draft. In this case, they easily find a trade. Who trades up? The Philadelphia Eagles. Now, like I said before, the Philadelphia Eagles, they went, who did they go with? Oh, yeah, they went Trevon Diggs, and they still need more safeties. More help on the secondary. And in this case, there is a player on the board that is really good, a really good inside linebacker, if you ask me. He does have some red flags, so trading up for him might not make a lot of sense. But anyways, the Eagles trade up, give their second round pick, and then 2 of their fourth round picks. So now this is a really good trade for both sides. I think Kenneth Murray, I always forget to say the name, Kenneth Murray, linebacker from Oklahoma, amazing inside linebacker, and would be really good with this Philadelphia Eagles defense. And honestly, the Saints taking Kenneth Murray would make a lot of sense, but they needed to trade out as well because they don't have many picks. So the 49ers now get to pick in the second round. They get to pick in the fourth round twice. Still don't have a third round pick. I don't think so. And now Kenneth Murray going to the Eagles fits really well as well. So with the final pick, the reigning Super Bowl champions, the Kansas City Chiefs, are on the clock. And the Kansas City Chiefs can do one of two things here. They can trade out of the first round and grab more picks. This would make a lot of sense if they did. However, taking a corner is so good, and I don't know if they're going to be able to take a corner in the second round, unless if they trade like early second round, which would make a lot of sense as well. But I don't know who's going to be trading up here. They might get a trade offer, and I think they would take it if they can trade into the early second round. So they stick in my mock draft. They stick at the 32nd overall position, and they go with cornerback from Utah, Jalen Johnson. And that would complete my mock draft, final mock draft, as we are entering the NFL draft this Thursday. That is the final draft. All of those players are going to be taking in that exact order: 5 offensive tackles, 6 cornerbacks, 5 wide receivers, 4 linebackers, 4 quarterbacks, 3 defensive tackles, 2 defensive ends, 2 safeties, no running backs, no tight ends, and no inside linebackers. Thank you all for tuning into this episode of Morning Kickoff, episode 23. Now, I just said inside linebackers in that little end of that clip, and I meant to say inside offensive linemen. There was inside linebackers taken. Inside offensive linemen, there was no centers and no guards in my mock draft. And if you enjoyed watching this episode 23, it would be so much appreciated if you were to leave a like on the video. If you would like more, if you're a fan of football, I do this podcast about twice a week now, and if you subscribe, turn on the bell, you can tune into it. A lot of it is Minnesota Vikings related, but really, if you're a fan of any team, I talk about a lot of things regarding football because it's just what I love to do. So it would be so much appreciated if you were to like the video, leave a comment, feedback, literally anything. Thank you for tuning into this episode. Merch link down below. And as always, until next time.